Hello everyone, this is OPS, Olympic Peninsula Spotlight. I'm your host Rick Nichols.
And I'm Matthew Warnick.
We'll be bringing you entertainment from the local area musicians, information concerning local businesses, and we'll also help to keep your calendar up to date with schedules for up-and-coming events. Our program is coming at you from Circle of Sound in Olympia, Washington. This full-service recording studio also offers in-house mastering, CD and DVD duplication, digital transfers, and audio restoration. Circle of Sound, reasonable rates and local convenience.
And on today's episode, we're going to put the spotlight on Sean Cully, also known as Lasaril. We're going to do an interview, and we're going to play you 3 of his great songs.
Use it for the fun instead of the sleep. We can shake it till we make the neighbors weep. But come on, yeah, get into my bed. Get into my bed, yeah. Get into my bed, yeah. Jump
Well, Sean, after this interview, you have to introduce me to that girl. Just kidding. Our next song is All My Little Demons.
All my little demons. Solitary note. All my little demons, they never let me rest. All my twisted little children, they dirty their beds in my head where they nest. All my little demons will never let me be clean. All my twisted little children, soiling, staining, scouring everything. Don't leave They always come out at night, scratching at my windows, telling me to come outside to play some twisted game. I never wanna go, but I go anyway. But I go anyway. All my little demons, all my twisted children.
Thank you for being here today. How are you doing, Sean?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate being asked aboard.
And do you prefer Sean, or shall I call you Lasaril?
You can call me Sean. I'm actually okay with that. Yeah, Lazaril's just the name I work under.
Oh, I was hoping I could call you Lasaril.
You can call me Lazzy. Anything you want. Just don't call me late for dinner.
Okay. What kind of music do you make?
I make really good music, Matt.
Good answer.
Yeah, thanks.
I agree.
I'm pretty
He
wide
says
open.
the same thing about his love making too, I'm sure.
Yes, of course, but of course nobody can really argue with me since I'm alone. Yeah, I always agree with myself. I pretty much I'll write whatever pops into my head. I've written opera pieces, arias for opera singers back in college. I've written plenty of prog rock, folksy type stuff, electronic definitely. Even written a polka or two. So it's really whatever pops into my head. There's very little I won't write. I've never been able to write a good country song. I just can't get my tongue that far in my cheek.
No problem. I'm not a big fan of country.
Hey, if I could write one number one country hit, I would be very happy. 'Cause then I could just not have to work anymore. I'd be okay.
Yeah. Any motivation behind any of your specific songs?
You mean why do I write?
Yeah.
Quite
Let me start
frankly,
there.
I think if I didn't write, I think like a lot of people that are kind of driven to make things, I'd probably go insane. I don't do it to make a lot of money, which is good because I don't. So if I'm not creating something, then I tend to stagnate, and then I tend to do things to myself that we shouldn't do. So music is my drinking and my drugs and my all that stuff I prefer to stay away from. If I didn't do it, I wouldn't know what to do. I guess we'd put it that way.
Music making is a good vice.
It can get pretty expensive, I mean,
Yeah.
you're always buying new gear, and everything you have isn't good enough. You got to get more.
You don't do it off the latest PSR Yamahas over from Best Buy?
A good PSR, comes in handy. I usually use those at the end of a show. I'll swing them around and bash them.
Is that before or after you pull out your jaw harp?
Yeah, I've got the mandatory jaw harp. A Casio is good on occasion. For they explode into many pieces.
Nothing like an exploding Casio.
That's right.
So what I mean with motivation too is like Rick has a few songs that are like based directly on politics. Do you just think of a song like I'd like to make a song about this and make it, or do you see something and like I have to make a song about that?
Well, I'm also a freelance writer, so I always have stories going on in my head, and so a lot of times with a song or a series of songs, I want to tell a story with them. I just finished one a few days ago about living in an old folks' home, and the ruminations of an old man, about the love of his life when he was a younger man, and politics do come in. I usually end up not finishing those because I get so irate that my lyrics just descend into the bowels of vitriol, and I end up cutting them.
Not enough Pepto-Bismol in the world.
There's right, yeah. I don't want my music to give me gas, let alone anyone else. But that's it mainly. Sometimes, a song like "Get Into My Bed," I just wanted to sing a silly song about the joys of sex, and all my little
Good topic,
demons.
by
Yeah,
the
yeah.
way.
It's universal, and it's why we're all here, in more ways than one. A song like "All My Little Demons," as someone who's struggled with depression and mental issues, that's something that I tend to go back to a lot. Is how do I keep myself sane? And "All My Little Demons" is about that.
I really like that track. That's one of my favorite pieces of yours.
I had a big grin on my face when I wrote it, and it was a lot of fun to lay down. Sometimes you get lucky, and things just work. Not nearly as often as the failures, but that's why you just keep writing every chance you get.
First rule of development is to, if at first you don't succeed, hide the evidence and make like you never tried. You ever do that?
Oh, I have many burn piles that I have lit with matches to get rid of. Believe me, especially lyrics. I've written some of the world's worst lyrics. Just thinking about them makes my blood curdle.
So have I. So I don't really do music.
The fewer words you can introduce into them, usually the better off they can be.
And that's an issue I have, is real verbal elephantosity. I like to stick a lot of words in there. I get described as being an intellectual lyric writer, which I don't try to be. It's just, I like mixing the words up. And
If you got it, flaunt it, Sean.
that's right, and, you got to compensate for these things. And using really long words, really, really long words just makes me feel good inside for reasons I won't extol at this time.
Tell our viewers what you're compensating for.
I'm not going to.
Just kidding. That wasn't a real question.
I take all of that back.
I do, since we're on the subject and kind of talked about it a little bit, kind of go over the process of making a song. Like, do you get an idea and just start writing things down? Do you do like an outline? Do you just hit the record and go with whatever rolls? Do you lay down a few musical tracks and then see what happens from there?
Yeah, good question. All of the above, really. It just depends on where the song is coming from. My day job, the one that actually pays me money, is nice in the sense that I get to walk around, and a lot of times I'll compose lyrics and melodies in my head. I would say I've probably written a good 50 songs just when I'm on the clock working for another company, which will remain unnamed. So that will happen sometimes. Those are the fun ones because typically you can lay down and just pound it out. And some of the best short little poppy songs I've ever written are about 5 minutes of record time just to get them out.
Doing what we do, because I work in the same place.
That will remain unnamed.
But it will remain unnamed. I've been there about 10 years, and I know you get so good at it, you can do it in your sleep, and that gives your mind time to wander. But it gives your mind time to wander, and you can definitely think independently of your work and just come out with interesting stuff.
It's pretty zen-like, yeah. Once you've done a job long enough, you can kind of go on autopilot. Other ways that I tend to write, and I think probably most musicians do it, is you just sit at whatever your chosen instrument is and pound around, and something grabs you, and you just go with it. I started my career in music as a drummer and played professionally for a couple of decades, and so rhythm is really important in my writing. So a lot of times I'll just write a drum rhythm and start building on top of that, because there's an old saying that you can take a great band with a crappy drummer and you'll end up with a crappy band. You can take a mediocre band with a great drummer and what you get is a pretty damn good band. So the rhythm, if the rhythm isn't there, unless it's like really slow, smoky blues or something more ethereal or ambient, if the rhythm isn't there and it's not tight and it's not, solid and I think unique, I think the rest of the stuff just kind of tends to fail on top of it.
So, Sean, Ringo Starr was really the world's greatest drummer?
Sure, yeah, he was. He had nothing, old Buddy Rich had nothing on Ringo. But the odd
Gene
thing.
Krupa or Billy Cobham?
Yeah, oh my God. I could go on about Billy. His first symposium I ever went to was a Billy Cobham symposium. I almost quit playing. It was that amazing.
Was he doing Mahavishnu Orchestra at the time?
At the time, no, he was post that. He was a Glass Menagerie. Wasn't that
with Bob Weir? Because he did a tour around. Matter of fact, they did the Angus down in Eugene, Oregon, with Bob Weir, and I thought his band at that time was Rat Dogs or something to that effect. But I thought it was a strange combination
Yeah.
with Cobham on drums and Bob Weir on guitar and vocals.
Yeah, definitely diverse musical histories there, coming from two totally different areas. I think that symposium I went to was probably 1980 or so. So I think Mahavishnu. I don't know if John was still
I
doing.
think they probably had disbanded.
Folks,
Yeah,
this is part of the interview where the old guys talk way beyond my time. I'll just be quiet for a little bit.
Well, around that time, I remember John McLaughlin was doing his. He was working with Al Di Meola and Paco de Lucia. Passion, Grace, and Fire.
And also Santana.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They did an album together.
I find it amazing. I'm a huge Miles Davis fan, and John was one of the few non-African American musicians that he was willing to work with, and that's a real testament to just how great that guy was. That he could he get accepted into a group of musicians of that caliber.
Yes, yes, totally. Anyway, I'm through interrupting. Matthew, go ahead. And
Oh, I'm kind of into this music history stuff.
Back to the present. So, and again, you've already talked a little bit about my next question. Are there any musicians that you take inspiration from, or maybe even got you into making music that you can remember listening to as a child or something like that?
Yeah, and there's so many. Now, when I think about why I started writing music, I remember, again, I started as a drummer, and I was I did progressive rock drumming, so I was into, bands like Yes and King Crimson and Genesis and the heady progressive rock bands. But so I wasn't really interested in anything that was basic or in 4/4 or a waltz or in 6/8 or any of that stuff. But I started hearing songs coming out. I think the first one I remember that turned my ear was "Run Like Hell" by Pink Floyd, "The Wall," and then "Turn It On Again" by Genesis. There was something in the chord structures that made my ears buzz. I found out later those are called suspensions, and I became very, very much enamored with the idea of getting on keyboards and trying to create that buzz. And then that's when I discovered Todd Rundgren and his music so laden with suspensions. And what a suspension is it's a chord that has densities to it, so your ear doesn't know exactly what note to listen to. So that turned me on a lot. After that, once I started actually studying keyboards, sky's the limit. I just, anything that sounded new, I would latch on to. Again, I'm an old Genesis prog head, the Peter Gabriel years, and so I think a lot of my storytelling approach comes from Peter Gabriel kind of style of writing. So yeah, you name it, and heck, even bands that I listened to during the Aquanet era, big hair bands, I despised them so much that actually taught me things too. What I don't want to do.
Tell you what not to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And not to diminish.
I approve of that.
Yeah. I don't mean to diminish what they were doing, but I always leaned more towards the musicians and composers that were trying to create an atmosphere rather than trying to play a big one and and show off in their stretch pants. I like music that transports you, so consequently, what I get compared to a lot are Peter Gabriel. I get Thomas Dolby a lot as far as what I'm doing. So yeah, that was kind of a meandering answer to that, but
that's all right.
I like it all.
We learn a lot about you when you meander.
Matt, back in the day of prog rock, they had something that was called a gatefold, where the whole album would open up and you would make your marijuana cigarettes on it. It was very nice. The Gentle Giant was a great one because you had this nice giant looking at you as you messed around with your paraphernalia. Not that I do that now, nor do I condone the use of that sort of thing, but it was a nice thing for us old people.
You might explain to Matthew what prog stands for, too, Sean.
Progressive rock, which Gosh, I
I'm not that
truly
young.
could go on. Yeah, I could go on and on the history of prog rock. It's almost sick how much time I've devoted to studying.
Well, I like a lot of your prog rock. I've
Well,
listened to a lot of your prog rock songs, and I really like them. I think they're good.
I think the closest I've ever come to prog would be Outcast Society is in a lot of odd time signatures. That was kind of a jazz fusion thing that I did on my Outcast Society album. Gosh, 13 years ago. A Miracle in the Frida Lehman Clockworks. I finally reclassified that as prog pop because after it does the big, obligatory, bombastic, polyrhythmic opening, it goes into a pretty basic, 4/4 pattern and tells a really cool story, about a clock factory that where the clocks start going backwards and people start
That's
getting.
what I was thinking of that one.
Yeah. But so it's a prog pop in the sense that it's pretty basic, but it's 13 minutes long. So not too many listeners nowadays are going to devote that amount of time to a single piece, which is sad. I mean, that's and I find I have to force myself to devote the time to listen to The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway from start to finish. I don't know how many times I've done that, but nowadays time is.
When you start getting up there in years, Sean, what I find anyway is not only can I go to sleep, but I can wake up by them.
I remember it was on Stephen Colbert. He was interviewing one of his favorite bands of all time, which is Rush. And he was talking about the length of their songs and the fact that they've had such a huge influence, even though they've been kind of shunned by the critics on so many different bands. And he's, Stephen's there on his big throne looking down on Rush, and he goes, "Have you ever gotten to the end of a song that was so long that by the time you finished it, you're influencing yourself?"
Wonderful.
Yeah, I've always wanted to write songs that long. I've been doing a lot of that lately, but more in the ambient realm, not so much prog.
I grew up on my dad's old 60s and 70s rock, and
Nice.
but I'm young enough that I do like a lot of the electronic movements. But what I like about people like you are you kind of do both. And so I was wondering if you gave us some thoughts on like the current state of technology, like and how it affects music. Like you obviously put a lot of time into your music because you play real instruments, as to where people nowadays are getting famous on what I believe are almost music generating programs.
I had a funny feeling you were going to ask me that, and
It's perfect.
yeah, and I want to.
That was an equipment-generated question.
That's right. Yes, and this is a MIDI answer. I'm actually allowing my MIDI controller to take over on this one. It's a tough one for me. I walk a fine line between. I mean, if I were to not use digital gear, I couldn't do what I do because you have to be a multimillionaire to have a nice, beautiful analog studio. So in that sense, I'm really, not a slave to it, but, my computers capture my audio. I try my best to play organically into the computers. But I do personally try to avoid that as much as I can. Obviously, if it's a song like Get Into My Bed, that was based off of a drum sequence that I wrote. And then that kind of clavichord rhythm movement that's happening there. I did play that live, but I quantized it because it has to have that techno precision to it.
Yeah.
120 BPMs, so they shake their butts. Anyways, now as far as technology that is being used a lot now, things like auto-tune or programs that actually generate sounds on a computer. I struggle with those, and I probably should. Now, there's great bands out there. One I've been listening to lately is One Otrix Point Never. It's doing a lot of sound generation through computers and manipulating the sound. It's like the old Musette Concrète movement. Was that the 20s, back in the 20s and 30s, where they would find found sounds and create music, with hammers and something like One Otrix Point Never, or there's another group I was just listening to last night, where their whole thing, Flying Lotus, is the name of the band, where it's the great nephew of John Coltrane, actually, and I find it amazing that I'm listening to this electronic generated music and going, is this the new jazz? I mean, is this?
That's not the first time I've heard that. Like, it's a legitimate question. I think it's going around now.
Yeah, where it's become, ubiquitous in the sense that, people are using this gear, so it's no longer a new, fresh thing where it's like, oh, bleeps and bloops.
Yeah.
They're actually taking it and incorporating it into their concept of what music is or what it should be, and stepping beyond the bounds of it in the same way that free jazz did, with Coltrane and Miles Davis, which, of course, that music now, there's bands like BBNG, Bad Bad Not Good, that is a new kind of free jazz group. It's a trio, but that's pretty underground, so I'm almost thinking that electronics, used properly, could become this really neat thing that forges us, sets us forward into new music areas. Unfortunately, the flip side of that is just the endless barrage of auto-tuned pop princesses and princes, I guess we could say, where it's being used as a way to cover up, I think, musical inadequacies, and I find that upsetting. Or I'll hear a really neat keyboard line and discover that it was written in with dots. I struggle with that. Yeah. I do. I try not to be a snob about it, but it is what it is. I as organic as possible is always preferable to me. But not lo-fi. I don't have to be lo-fi. I'm not one of those, it's got to sound like it was recorded 90 years ago type of thing. We've got this technology. Let's use it.
Pops.
Yeah. So, that probably sums it up without me putting my foot too far down my throat.
For me, I feel like it's kind of like the final step toward the complete industrial line music.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
That's kind of how I've always viewed it.
Sounds like you're talking more than just arpeggiations and things like that, because use of arpeggiators have been around, Who did it with Who's Next all those years ago. And, there are those kind of things. But if you're talking about like a Project 5, a Cakewalk Project 5 software that you basically hold down a note and it generates all of this stuff, I have a hard time with that. And I think Alice Coltrane would have a hard time thinking that that's becoming the new jazz. Sean, I know that you're not into the MIDI stuff because you want to be able to play it. And I honestly feel like if you can at least play it once, then you should incorporate it somehow.
I agree 100%. I mean, really, and this has been going on for ages as far as music. Music isn't music anymore. My hero, Frank Zappa, talked about that endlessly, about really it is style. The pop music or popular music is really no more than, I heard a comedian the other day going, isn't it weird that you never see any ugly rock stars, or pop stars, I should say. Of course, the joke being that, because pop industry would never allow that,
But of course.
You've got to look like, this endless stream of cookie cutter.
21 and under.
Yeah, cookie cutter, that's what I mean when I say like the industrial line music. It's like find somebody who looks good.
Yeah.
Have somebody else make a quick beat on a computer.
Well, that machine's been
put them together, auto-tune it.
I have worked really hard to try to avoid to be, the old kids nowadays,
Oh, your dad.
Yeah. Although I just went on a big diatribe on Facebook because I follow a gentleman named Anthony Fantano online, who's a music critic, and he's great because he introduces me and lots of other people to music that you probably wouldn't stumble upon. He kind of keeps his ears to the rail for the underground stuff, and a lot of it's really good. I've discovered some really neat things. But he did a video recently where he was just talking about the score of EPs that had come out from these different bands, And I went to each and every one of their things to watch, to hear what they were about. And it was so bad. It was one was I'm not going to say the name of the band, but it sounded like an old Atari video game mixed with J-pop, which is Japanese pop, which is very sugary. I mean, your teeth just fall out. And there was really no skill that I could hear in it. I don't know why I went on that tangent, but back to hip hop and rap. I've really tried hard to open my mind to it, to the point where there's some really cool stuff going on there. I tend to think of it more as a producer's type of thing. I mean, and it's affected my own how I capture drums, subharmonic bass type stuff, and a lot of that's just come from listening to, hip hop production and just going, how are they achieving that luscious, subharmonic,
So you're into big bottoms?
I love big bottoms. I cannot lie. Yeah.
You went there.
I did go there. I was going to start quoting Spinal Tap, and there may be a copyright infringement there. I don't know. But anyways, I don't even know where we started with that. But yeah, that's my feelings on.
We started everywhere.
Yes.
With that.
It's very deep, Matthew.
It's universal.
I'm pretty deep.
That's right. All right.
So you did touch on this a little bit, but I'd like to maybe cover it more specifically. How has the advent of the digital realm really helped you in your music? I know a great example is that you had said you don't need a $1 million studio. It definitely has made it easier for you to do at home.
You can go out and spend no more than $2,500 on a good computer with a good audio capture card or device, basically, and your whatever instrument you choose to play, and right away you can be creating and capturing your own sound, and that, and I don't know if I've been, it sounds like you've been following that trend a lot longer than I did. I didn't really start pushing that until '94 is when I first started kind of getting into the DIY recording stuff, and so yeah, that to me has been the biggest thing, is the fact that it's made it cheap, and so more people can do it, and it's allowed some really fabulous experimentation to occur. The flip side is the more the more good stuff that comes out, or the more volume that comes out, it's still, you got to sift through a lot of crap.
It's always a 30.
That's
40
right.
ratio.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and it's probably much higher than that as far as. But that's the beauty
I was
of
trying to
it.
be generous.
Yeah, music used to be quite elite as far as you had to get into get funding from someone.
Probably had to know somebody.
Yeah, although it was much more open then. I mean, bands were allowed to develop, and that died really for us in the '80s. And then, of course, we're so regional now that really, unless you're becoming successful regionally and then expanding out, not as easy as it used to be.
That's my favorite part about it. What I think is good about it is it gives the independent artist a leg up. It has actually even created, I think, like a new market with the internet. People nowadays, like myself, don't even listen to the radio anymore. I just listen to Pandora. Because I can hear all sorts of artists that I actually enjoy. Like, I don't like listening to the radio because it's all mainstream.
I'm torn on that one.
Industrial garbage.
Yeah, well, you see me with my headphones on all the time. I'm constantly, I've got my own sound. And quite frankly, a lot of times I listen to unfinished music that I'm working on because it helps me to, maybe.
And that's something you can do at work.
Yeah.
Because you can put it on your phone.
Yeah. But at the same time, one of the nice things about radio is it did, as far as being able to support yourself, is if you could get good radio play, and you were actually good, which was rare, then more people would buy your product, just through recognition.
That's where you could put your music on CD Baby and not make it
Yeah,
have 1,000 views but not make a dime.
I've done that, and yeah, I haven't.
You don't get anywhere doing that. You're just one of 300 or 350,000 other people that nobody's pushing.
Yeah.
I agree with the radio thing. I actually thought that was a better format. It was a format where people could call in and express their opinions, request plays. It was a place where local artists could go and get some recognition without it costing you an arm and a leg.
I'm a big user of SoundCloud, and I follow a lot of folks on SoundCloud. I have a decent amount of followers. But I've heard music that would truly knock your socks off. Just amazing composers up there, putting their songs up there and just hoping someone will listen. And I've listened to tunes that have brought me to tears, and they've got 5 followers, and it's just and then I'll find some dubstep group, and I won't get into dubstep, but
a million views and listens. Well, what about the Korean guy and his dance?
What was that, William Hung?
How much
Gangnam
talent?
Style.
Oh, that whole thing,
Right?
Yeah.
That's what you meant, right?
Yeah, I mean,
that song
there
is
just seems
stupid,
to be a lot of non-talent that is being listened to.
but it gets stuck in your head, and then you sing it at work.
It
And then you
doesn't
gotta
get
show your
stuck in
friend.
mine.
Well, it's
To
also,
me, it does.
It's very hip to listen to bad stuff now. I mean,
the new in.
It's
Yeah.
hip to be bad.
Yeah, and that in itself just speaks volumes to me, way beyond just music and art. That speaks to a whole cultural thing, that it is not cool to be an amazing talent or
Right,
or to be emotionally attached to what you make. It's got to be this snarky, computer generated, bad.
Yeah,
sounding.
part A from start to finish.
Yeah.
No part B's,
Yeah,
no
that
bridges,
is-
no choruses. It's
That's the deal with
And
that
heaven
song.
forbid that it's over 2 minutes long, because that's like asking a kid to read Tolstoy nowadays. That's just not happening.
So, a little off the subject here. There was a petition to the White House to build a Death Star. A legitimate petition, and it got enough signatures to warrant a response.
Oh, I thought it got shot down.
It did.
No
That
pun
was the
intended.
response.
I think the
It got blown up.
what was the name of the revolution?
So I was going to ask
there?
you if you signed that petition.
I
You seem like a guy that would.
Oh yeah, I am so obviously right wing. Yeah, Death Star. That's how atypically American is that.
Well, the White House opened I don't know how long ago, but they opened an online petition board where people can just put petitions on the website, and other people, it's almost like Facebook petition. Other people can go and like it or whatever, and if it gets 20,000 online signatures, I wouldn't even be surprised if it's like a little thumbs up button that you press.
Well,
Then-
fill us in. Is it supposed to look like the Star Wars?
I don't know. I didn't read the petition.
'Cause
It's
that
just
would be
all
cool,
over the news.
you know.
It would be cool.
Make it an aquarium or something.
I want to be captain on it.
Yeah, no kidding.
But what's funny is the people actually had good points. They're like, it would, not that I think it's a good idea, but the points were good. It would create jobs. It would move the economy, and it would put a lot of money into space exploration and space travel research.
Well, why not be a Death Star Disneyland or something like? I mean, why does it have to kill things? I guess that's where I'm coming from.
I don't know, but if a meteor hits the Earth, I'm going to it.
That's yeah. We need alternatives. I say a whole
There you
fleet.
There you go.
Well, they
I'm
did.
with the fleet idea.
I'm actually surprised, but Obama did turn it down. He said that we're not in the interest of blowing up planets.
Not even our own.
Apparently
Well,
not.
Eventually, yeah. We're,
Just
we're-
not yet.
yeah, we got things to do before we, at least for a few more years. Yeah, if we had the technology to actually have orbs up in space, not with no guns on them, which humankind, I don't know if that's possible. But,
No, it has to.
I would think our TV would be much more enhanced with a satellite dish that size.
yeah, nice.
A satellite the size of our own planet.
Yes.
And we get 2 eclipses a year.
Because don't you really hate having, 150 TV channels and absolutely nothing on.
Right.
Now, Sean doesn't because he's writing all the time.
I'm addicted to one channel, and that's the Food Network. I
Now-
love that program.
Now, do you get to watch that while you're at work, which will remain unnamed?
Yes,
No.
we do. As a matter of
Sometimes
fact,
we do. People seem more interested in watching Pawn Stars or
boy, we could
Pawn
really,
Stars.
yeah. I hate to be
that's
so
why I don't
negative on
watch
that.
TV anymore.
Yeah, it's in my mind, all of this, whether it's music, art, what we watch on TV, our politicians, all this stuff just points in a really
Negative?
downward spiral. Yeah, it's all connected, and I don't know if to bring it back to the audio or the music side of it, but
Let's do.
it's all it's a parallel of negativity in my mind. It's all This is really turning out to be a depressing interview here.
Oh well, I better change the subject.
You're gonna have listeners, jumping out of buildings. If we put,
Well,
we'll edit this part out.
This is now being known as Black Sunday, folks.
well, such an engaging conversation. I'm sure our listeners would like to know where they can hear your music. So why don't you
Oh gosh,
give
where
everyone
am
an idea?
I've got lots of stuff up on SoundCloud, and you can just go to SoundCloud and look me up. I'm Lasaril, Lasaril. I also have a side project. If you like floaty ambient music, the meditate to or just float and drift. I'm also under Delicate Storm in the Garden of Dreaming on SoundCloud. I will be working with a new songwriter here in town, the Reverend Cheeto Sims, who is a local street minister and glass mandala artist. We've got one song up on under Cheeto Sims called Clarence and Nancy. Give him a visit. He's an interesting old guy. I'm also on Reverb Nation under Lasaril. I'm at Bandcamp under Lasaril. I'm on YouTube with some videos under Lasaril as well. So basically, all my stuff on SoundCloud is free to download, and I hope you check it out and like something, and yeah.
Personally, as a new fan of Lasaril, I just got to tell all the listeners out there, do yourself a favor. Check this out. You will not be sorry.
I couldn't have said that better myself.
Go ahead, give it a try.
I'm telling you, I am just recently.
And Rick, I think you need to remind our audience that he didn't pay you to say that.
That's right. No money was exchanged during the course of this. That comes later.
Now, after the show, yes.
Hasn't paid you yet. And how can everybody contact you if they like your music? How
Well,
can they
you
tell
can contact me through SoundCloud. There's a little contact hyperlink you can click on there. I believe you can do the same through Reverb Nation and Bandcamp, and of course YouTube, ubiquitous tube. You can leave comments and whatnot there, and I'll always try to call you back or whatever they call it on the net. I'll net you back.
Ubiquitous tube?
Poke you. He'll poke you, folks.
That's right. I'm eager to poke.
I believe your first song covered that, did it not?
You got to celebrate it. If it wasn't for, if your parents didn't get into their bed, you wouldn't be here right now. And I think for that we should be thankful, unless it was in a bus or wherever they happen to get together. It's all a beautiful thing, Matthew.
Of course, it was always, they were married at the time, just for our younger audience.
Oh yeah, I mean, heaven forbid. I don't think it's possible to do that before you're married.
Yeah, there you go.
Do what? Just kidding.
No, you got to wait till you're married. Then we'll tell you.
Oh, okay.
Then we'll tell you. Yeah, it's
All
a
right.
lot of fun. You'll want to spend a lot of time doing it, but you won't be allowed to. That's another reason I like playing music is I get to hit the gear and it does what I want, and I don't have to answer to it.
Doing it on your own?
That's right, playing with my organs.
You know, it was first time I had sex. I was scared to death. Of course, I was by myself at the time. Is it one of those things?
It was a scary, yeah, now that I think about it, I know it woke me right up.
All right.
You learn a little more about us each episode.
Yeah, we'll be sending mental Brillo pads out to each and every one of you so you can scrub this out of your brain.
Well, that was a little Q&A with Sean Cully, also known as Lasaril.
Hey, Sean, before Matthew lets you out of his lair, why don't you tell our listeners any new projects you have in the works?
My newer pop material, or whatever you call what it is I do, and then some longer, more ambient, experimental sound pieces. And I'm pretty excited on how it sounds. It's made what little hair I have stand up. It's sounding really good. And then, of course, the Cheeto Sims CD is very slowly commencing as I can get him into the studio. And that's about it for me.
All right, well, we'll look forward to hearing that, Sean. Thanks again for being here.
Hey, my pleasure. Glad to be here.
We're going to finish this interview up with another great track of his.
It's a beautiful world. So you feel this life is cheating you, that bill collector beating you, even then it's still a beautiful world. So your lover push your face in the dirt, steal your money, then come back for your shirt, even then it's still a beautiful world. Oh, it's still a beautiful world. You never got a playbook, they just threw you in the game. 3 men on and 2 men down. Step up, take a swing, the pitch will come all the same. So your shovel maybe broke on a stone, always surrounded and yet all alone. Even then, it's still a beautiful world. You never signed a contract, they just threw you in the game. It all comes down to sudden death. Step up, take a swing and follow your
it is. Thanks to Lasaril for being on the show today. It was a great time, great interview. And since Matthew poked so much fun at me and hurt my feelings last week on the calendar of events, we're just going to go ahead and skip that this week. We'd like to thank you for joining us today, and the same to all our listeners wherever you may be. This is Rick Nichols
And Matthew Warnick.
with OPS, wishing all of you a great week. We look forward to you joining us next week when our guest will be the Ole Mountain Boys. So until then, goodbye for now.
We'd love to hear from you, so contact us at olympicpeninsulaspotlight@gmail.com.